The Galactic Symposium on Forbidden Experiments was an awe-inspiring spectacle. The crystalline halls of Zartuin gleamed under the light of 3 distant suns, reflecting the collective knowledge of thousands of civilizations. Delegates of all shapes, sizes, and biologies filled the vast chamber, each representing species that had achieved the pinnacle of their respective sciences. Among them, for the first time, stood a small human delegation, an anomaly in this advanced gathering. Dr. Elena Morales adjusted her glasses, her sharp eyes scanning the sea of alien figures. To her left, Dr. Marcus Kane leaned casually against a sleek railing, his expression one of amused curiosity. The humans were dwarfed by the grandeur of the event, but neither seemed daunted. "This place," Marcus muttered, "makes the Louvre look like a garage sale." Elena smirked but kept her focus. "Remember why we're here, Marcus. They're not impressed by jokes, or us, for that matter." Marcus shrugged. "They will be." Around them, alien delegates whispered among themselves. Humans were the newest species to breach the boundaries of interstellar travel, and their presence here was met with skepticism. Whispers of reckless and primitive floated through the chamber, barely audible but impossible to ignore. A towering figure approached, its elongated frame draped in iridescent robes. Atro-Vun of the Ilex species, a being of impeccable logic and renowned intellect, inclined its translucent head toward Elena. "Dr. Morales," it began in a voice like cascading water, "your species' arrival here is bold." Elena met its gaze without flinching. "We believe knowledge should be shared, Atro-Vun. Boldness is often a requirement for progress." The Ilex's crystalline body pulsed faintly, a gesture akin to a chuckle. "A dangerous philosophy. Perhaps you will learn, as others have, that there are limits even for the bold." Before Elena could respond, the symposium's chime echoed through the hall, signaling the opening session. Delegates moved toward their seats, and the chamber's center transformed into a holographic display of unimaginable complexity. Worlds, equations, and phenomena floated in the air, each representing experiments deemed too dangerous to pursue. The host, a Dryon elder with a voice like grinding stone, began the session. "Welcome, esteemed minds of the galaxy. Today, we convene to discuss the forbidden, the experiments that tempt destruction and the boundaries we dare not cross." The room fell silent as the first presenter, a bioluminescent being from the Zalorian Collective, described a failed attempt to harness dark matter as a power source. Their account ended with a somber declaration: the experiment had annihilated an entire moon. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. As the presentations continued, the atmosphere grew heavier. Each experiment recounted was a testament to the fine line between brilliance and catastrophe. Yet, through it all, the humans listened intently, taking notes, and occasionally exchanging knowing glances. When it was Atro-Vun's turn to speak, the room seemed to hold its breath. The Ilex floated to the center of the chamber, its crystalline body refracting light in dazzling patterns. "There is one experiment," it began, "that stands apart. An experiment that no species has dared to complete. Not the Zalorians, not the Vyans, not even the Trilaxians with their neural supercomputers." The holographic display shifted, revealing a swirling vortex of energy, a microsingularity, unstable and violent. The chamber darkened as the image expanded, consuming all attention. "The quantum singularity cascade test," Atro-Vun announced. "The creation and stabilization of a microsingularity within 30 seconds. A feat requiring precision beyond what most species can achieve." Elena leaned forward slightly, her analytical mind racing. Beside her, Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Interesting," he whispered. Atro-Vun continued, its tone almost reverent. "Every attempt has ended in failure. Those who have tried are no longer among us." The hologram dissolved, leaving an eerie silence. Delegates shifted uncomfortably, and the Dryon elder spoke again. "The cascade test remains forbidden for a reason. Its risk is absolute." Despite the somber warnings, Marcus couldn't resist a quiet comment. "Sounds like a challenge." Elena shot him a sharp look. "Don't even think about it." But the seed was planted. As the session continued, Marcus's mind whirred with possibilities. What made the test so impossible? Was it truly beyond reach, or were the galaxy's most advanced species simply too cautious? During the break, the human team gathered near an observation deck overlooking Zartuin's crystalline landscape. The tension was palpable. "Elena," Marcus began, his tone uncharacteristically serious. "What if we could do it?" Elena sighed. "Don't start, Marcus. This isn't some engineering contest." "The risks?" "I know the risks," he interrupted. "But think about what it would mean. Humanity has always been about taking the impossible and making it possible. This is what we do." Dr. Amina Javed, their biochemist, chimed in. "He has a point, Elena. We've come a long way by refusing to play it safe." Elena looked at her team, weighing their words. Finally, she spoke, her voice firm. "If we're going to even consider this, we do it the right way. No shortcuts, no arrogance. Agreed?" Marcus grinned. "Wouldn't have it any other way." The symposium resumed with an air of heightened tension, the delegates still unsettled by the mention of the quantum singularity cascade test. Conversations buzzed quietly among the alien representatives, but the humans remained focused. Dr. Elena Morales reviewed the sparse data available on the experiment, her sharp mind dissecting every variable, every risk. Marcus Kane, however, seemed more intrigued than cautious, his fingers tapping rhythmically on a datapad as he analyzed possible stabilizing mechanisms. The Dion Elder took the stage once more, its deep voice cutting through the murmurs. "The quantum singularity cascade test, as you have heard, is a challenge that no species has survived. It represents the limits of control and precision, a task that demands not only intellect but an acceptance of annihilation should it fail." A Trilaxian delegate, their neural appendages glowing faintly, interjected. "To even suggest pursuing it borders on madness. The energy required to stabilize a singularity in such a short time frame exceeds even our most advanced containment systems." Atro Van nodded, its crystalline body shimmering faintly. "Precisely. The risk-to-reward ratio is indefensible. We discuss these experiments not to encourage their pursuit, but to remind ourselves of the boundaries we must respect." Elena exchanged a glance with Marcus. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, but neither of them seemed swayed. The Trilaxians might have reached their limits, but to humans, limits were often just another problem to solve. From across the room, a towering Dion turned its many eyes toward the human delegation. Its voice was deep and resonant, laced with disdain. "Perhaps the newcomers should heed these warnings. You are infants in the grand scale of the cosmos, barely crawling in the domain of interstellar knowledge. Your recklessness could bring ruin to us all." Marcus, unable to resist, leaned forward slightly. "With respect, it's not recklessness, it's curiosity. Big difference." The Therian's gaze hardened. "Curiosity without restraint leads to destruction." Elena intervened diplomatically, her tone calm but firm. "Restraint is valuable, but so is the willingness to explore the unknown. Every breakthrough in history has carried an element of risk. Our presence here is not about arrogance, it's about contributing to the collective understanding of what's possible." The Dion regarded her silently for a moment before turning away. Marcus whispered, "Nice save," and Elena shot him a warning glance. The session continued, but the humans' interest in the cascade test was no longer a secret. Delegates whispered and speculated, their unease growing. Atro Van approached the human delegation during the break, its crystalline form shimmering with faint intensity. "You seem intent on challenging wisdom with audacity," it said, addressing Elena directly. "Are you truly considering the cascade test?" Elena held its gaze, her expression measured. "We're considering possibilities. Nothing more." Marcus, however, couldn't help but add, "But if we were to try, hypothetically, it wouldn't be audacity. It'd be preparation." Atro Van's form pulsed faintly, a sign of disapproval. "Preparation will not shield you from the consequences. The cascade test is not merely difficult, it is a precipice from which no species has returned." Marcus shrugged. "Someone has to be the first." HFY paused, its translucent body refracting the chamber's light. If your species insists on courting oblivion, I hope you understand the responsibility you bear. This is not a challenge for the sake of pride. It is a test of survival against the forces of the universe itself. Elena nodded, her tone resolute. We understand the stakes. Humanity doesn't approach challenges lightly. HFY regarded her for a moment longer before retreating. The warning was clear, but it only seemed to solidify the humans' determination. Back at their quarters, the team gathered to discuss the logistics of the test. The room was a stark contrast to the grandeur of the symposium, its utilitarian design reminding them of Earth's comparatively modest advancements. Marcus laid out his initial calculations on a holographic display. The problem isn't generating the singularity, that part's straightforward. It's the stabilization window. 30 seconds doesn't leave much room for error. Amina Javed frowned, her analytical mind already dissecting the challenge. We'll need a containment field with adaptive feedback, something that can react in real time to fluctuations in the singularity's energy output. Elena added. And redundancy. If any part of the system fails, the entire experiment collapses. Marcus grinned. Good thing I packed a few contingency modules. Despite the gravity of the situation, the team's dynamic remained steady, their confidence rooted in years of working together under pressure. They outlined the steps needed, each member contributing their expertise. Elena ensured every detail was accounted for, from the energy parameters to the timing of the stabilization protocols. The next day, the symposium resumed, and the human team submitted their intention to attempt the cascade test. The announcement sent shockwaves through the assembly. Delegates erupted into debates, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of disbelief. This is lunacy! A Zalorian delegate exclaimed. They'll destroy us all! A Thyian elder raised a clawed hand. The humans have declared their intent. It is within their rights as participants of the symposium. HFY stepped forward, its voice calm but firm. If the humans proceed, they must bear full responsibility for the outcome. Let their actions speak for their species. The chamber fell silent as the human team prepared to step into the unknown. Elena's voice was steady as she addressed the assembly. We understand your concerns. This isn't about proving superiority or recklessness. It's about testing the limits of what's possible. If humanity can contribute to solving one of the galaxy's greatest challenges, we have a duty to try. The words hung in the air, a mixture of defiance and resolve. As the team moved toward the experimental chamber, the galaxy watched with bated breath, unsure whether they were about to witness brilliance or annihilation. The experimental chamber was a stark, intimidating space, its walls lined with energy-dampening alloys designed to withstand catastrophic failures. At its center stood the apparatus for the quantum singularity cascade test, a complex network of conduits, stabilizers, and containment fields that looked as much like a work of art as a piece of advanced technology. The air buzzed faintly with latent energy, a hum that spoke of the immense forces they were about to unleash. Elena Morales stood at the control station, her hands steady but her mind racing through every step of the process. Marcus Kane was to her left, making final adjustments to the adaptive feedback system they had jury-rigged using Earth-standard components. On the far side of the room, Amina Javed monitored the containment field, her focus unshakable as she calibrated the system to respond to even the slightest deviation in energy levels. The assembly of alien delegates watched from behind a reinforced observation shield, their expressions a mix of skepticism, fascination, and fear. HFY stood among them, its crystalline form shimmering with subdued intensity. It observed the humans in silence, its thoughts unreadable. Elena's voice cut through the tension. Final systems check. Amina? Containment field is stable. Amina replied without looking up. Ready to initialize on your command. Marcus? Marcus grinned, though his tone was all business. Feedback systems online. If this works, it'll be the smoothest singularity anyone's ever seen. Elena allowed herself a brief smile. Let's make sure it's also the safest. With a nod, she activated the first phase of the test. The apparatus hummed to life, conduits glowing faintly as they drew energy from the chamber's power core. The display on Elena's console lit up with streams of data, showing the initial parameters of the singularity formation process. Singularity generation in progress, she announced. Stabilization window begins in 10 seconds. The hum grew louder, shifting into a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to press against the very fabric of the room. In the center of the apparatus, a pinprick of darkness appeared, barely visible but unmistakably there, a micro-singularity, dense and volatile, its gravitational pull distorting the air around it. Formation complete, Amina reported. Containment field engaged. The containment field shimmered into place, a translucent barrier of energy that encased the singularity. For a moment, everything seemed to hold steady, the system functioning as intended. Then, as expected, the singularity began to destabilize, its energy fluctuating wildly. Feedback system engaged, Marcus said, his fingers flying over the console. Compensating for initial fluctuations. The room seemed to vibrate with the intensity of the test, the singularity pushing against its containment, as if testing the limits of their technology. Elena's eyes remained locked on her console, her mind calculating adjustments faster than most species would consider possible. Field integrity at 85%, Amina warned. We're losing stability on the lower quadrant. Reinforcing now, Marcus replied, redirecting power to the affected area. That should buy us a few more seconds. The singularity pulsed, its gravitational distortions growing more erratic. Alarms began to sound, warning of critical instability. The delegates behind the observation shield murmured in alarm, some backing away as the tension reached its peak. Elena's voice cut through the chaos. We need to dampen the oscillations. Amina, can you adjust the containment field harmonics? On it, Amina said, her hands moving quickly over the controls. Recalibrating now. Marcus glanced at Elena. We're running out of time. If this doesn't work. It'll work, Elena said firmly. Focus. Amina's adjustments took effect, and the containment field shimmered, its energy synchronizing with the singularity's oscillations. For a moment, the fluctuations decreased, the singularity appearing to stabilize. But the respite was short-lived. New spike in energy output, Amina warned. It's overloading the feedback system. Redirecting auxiliary power, Marcus said, his tone grim. This is going to push the stabilizer to its limit. Elena's mind raced. The stabilizer was their last line of defense. If it failed, the singularity would collapse, unleashing catastrophic destruction. She reviewed their options in an instant, weighing the risks and benefits of each. Marcus, she said, her voice steady, reroute the tertiary circuits. We'll feed the overflow directly into the containment field. Marcus hesitated. That's a one-way trip for the stabilizer. If it burns out, we don't have a choice, Elena said. Do it. Marcus nodded, his hands moving with practiced precision. Rerouting now. The stabilizer groaned under the strain, its systems pushed beyond their intended limits. The singularity pulsed again, but this time, the containment field held firm. The oscillations began to decrease, the micro-singularity slowly settling into a stable state. Field integrity at 95%, Amina reported, her voice tinged with disbelief. We've got it. Elena allowed herself a breath of relief. Finalizing stabilization protocols. Marcus? Done, Marcus said, his grin returning. Singularity's as stable as it's ever going to be. The room fell silent except for the steady hum of the containment field. The singularity, now fully stabilized, hung in the center of the apparatus, a testament to the human's ingenuity and determination. Behind the observation shield, the alien delegates were stunned. Even Atro seemed momentarily at a loss for words, its crystalline form flickering faintly as it processed what it had witnessed. Elena stepped back from the console, her expression calm but triumphant. Test complete. Singularity stabilized. The room erupted into applause, though it was hesitant and laced with disbelief. The humans had done the impossible, succeeding where countless other species had failed. It was a moment that would be remembered across the galaxy, a testament to humanity's unique combination of audacity and adaptability. Marcus leaned against the console, his grin widening. "So, who's buying the first round?" Elena shook her head, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Let's just make sure we survive the aftermath first." The silence in the observation chamber was almost palpable as the hum of the stabilized singularity filled the air. Delegates stood frozen, their expressions ranging from awe to outright disbelief. No one spoke, as if afraid that any sound might shatter the tenuous balance they had just witnessed. The humans had done the unthinkable, not only succeeding in the quantum singularity cascade test but doing so with a confidence that seemed almost reckless to the gathered species. HFY stepped forward, its crystalline body shimmering faintly in the dim light of the chamber. Its voice, usually calm and measured, held an undertone of something resembling incredulity. "Dr. Morales, your team has achieved what no civilization in this galaxy has dared attempt in millennia. I must ask, how?" Elena, still catching her breath from the intensity of the test, replied with deliberate calm. "By focusing on the problem, not the fear of failure. Humanity doesn't advance by avoiding challenges. We adapt, we improvise, and we push boundaries." Marcus, leaning casually against the console, chimed in with a grin. "And sometimes, we get lucky. But luck tends to favor the prepared." The murmurs among the delegates grew louder. A Zalorian diplomat, its bioluminescent patterns flickering in agitation, turned to the Dion elder. "This changes everything. If humans can master such a test, their capabilities may far exceed what we've accounted for." The Dion, massive and stoic, rumbled in agreement. "Their success demonstrates more than technical skill. It reveals a willingness to embrace risks no other species would consider. Such audacity, it is both a strength and a threat." Elena noticed a shift in the room. Admiration was quickly being overshadowed by unease. She stepped forward, addressing the assembly with a calm but firm tone. "I understand that what we've done here might seem alarming. But let me be clear, our intention was never to intimidate or provoke. Humanity's drive to push limits is rooted in our desire to understand, to learn, and to contribute. This success isn't a weapon, it's a step forward for all of us." A delegate from the Trilaxian coalition, its neural appendages glowing faintly, spoke up. "And what happens when this drive leads you to a failure you cannot contain? The singularity you just stabilized could have annihilated this entire facility. What then?" Amina, who had remained quiet until now, answered with measured precision. "Every experiment carries risk. The difference lies in preparation. We accounted for every variable, built redundancies into our system, and executed with precision. The galaxy's fear of this test wasn't a technical limitation, it was a psychological one." The room grew quiet again, but the undercurrent of tension remained. HFY turned its attention back to the human team. "Your words are compelling, Dr. Javid, but words do little to assuage fear. Today, you have shown us something extraordinary, but you have also reminded us of humanity's unpredictability. That, perhaps, is what unsettles this assembly most." Marcus chuckled softly. "Unpredictable isn't the same as reckless. Give us some credit." The Dion elder raised a clawed hand, silencing the murmurs. "Credit is due, but so is caution. The Galactic Council must re-evaluate humanity's position within the interstellar community. Your success here proves that you are capable of feats far beyond your years as a space-faring species. That alone warrants closer scrutiny." Elena resisted the urge to argue. She knew that their accomplishment would bring as much suspicion as respect. Instead, she replied with diplomacy, "We welcome scrutiny if it leads to mutual understanding. Humanity isn't here to disrupt the galaxy, we're here to be part of it." HFY tilted its crystalline head, its light flickering faintly. "Time will tell if your actions align with your words. For now, the outcome of this test stands as both an achievement and a warning." The chamber was dismissed shortly afterward, though the atmosphere remained heavy. As the human team returned to their quarters, Marcus broke the silence. "Well, that went, About as well as expected. Elena gave him a tired smile. They're scared, Marcus. And they're not entirely wrong to be. Amina nodded, her expression thoughtful. We've proven what we're capable of, but now the galaxy will watch us more closely than ever. One misstep, and everything we've built could come crashing down. Marcus shrugged. Then we just keep proving them wrong. Isn't that what we do best? The team fell into a contemplative silence as they prepared for their departure from Zartuan. Outside, the galaxy was already buzzing with news of the human success. Reports of the test spread like wildfire, each account framing the event in a slightly different light. To some, it was a moment of triumph, a display of humanity's potential to lead in the face of impossibility. To others, it was a chilling reminder of their capacity to disrupt the delicate balance of interstellar relations. HFY, watching from its private chamber, reflected on the day's events. The humans had defied expectations, but they had also laid bare the vulnerabilities of a galaxy that had grown too cautious. Their boldness was both inspiring and unnerving, a combination that would reshape intergalactic dynamics for years to come. As the human team's ship lifted off from Zartuan, Elena allowed herself a moment to look out at the stars. The weight of what they had accomplished settled over her, not as a burden, but as a responsibility. Marcus, sensing her thoughts, placed a hand on her shoulder. You know what they're going to call this, right? The day humans made the galaxy nervous. Elena smirked. Let them be nervous. Maybe it's time the galaxy remembered what it means to take a leap of faith. With that, the humans vanished into the void, leaving behind a legacy that would echo across the stars. A legacy born not of recklessness, but of a determination to show that even in the face of the impossible, humanity would always find a way forward.